Welcome back to Narrations. This is a story about kindness, not as something loud or heroic, but as something small, persistent, and quietly transformative. It's about finding home in a place that doesn't feel like it was made for you, and about how gentleness can survive even in a world that moves too fast to notice it. This is the story of Paddington. Paddington begins his life far away from cities, schedules, and expectations. Deep in the jungles of Peru, he lives with his Aunt Lucy and Uncle Pastuzo, two bears who believe deeply in good manners and the value of curiosity. Paddington grows up surrounded by warmth, stories, and encouragement. Aunt Lucy teaches him to read, to speak politely, and to approach the world with openness rather than fear. Uncle Pastuzo teaches him practical things: how to survive, how to fix, how to stay safe. But more than anything, they teach him to be kind. From an early age, Paddington is fascinated by the outside world. He listens intently to radio broadcasts crackling through the jungle, especially those from London, a place that sounds orderly, welcoming, and full of promise. London becomes more than a city to him. It becomes an idea. A place where people value politeness. A place where no one is ever truly alone. Then disaster arrives quietly. An earthquake destroys their home. Uncle Pastuzo is gone. And suddenly, the jungle that once felt safe becomes fragile. Aunt Lucy knows what this means. She knows she can no longer protect Paddington the way she once did. With gentle resolve, she makes a heartbreaking decision. She sends Paddington to London. Not because it is easy, but because she believes it is right. Paddington leaves with a small suitcase, a hat, a jar of marmalade, and a label tied around his neck that reads, "Please look after this bear." Thank you? He believes someone will. When Paddington arrives at Paddington Station, the world overwhelms him immediately. The noise. The crowds. The speed. Everyone is rushing somewhere, and no one seems to notice the small bear standing alone beneath the clock. Paddington waits patiently. He believes waiting politely will help. Hours pass. No one stops. Confusion sets in slowly, followed by something heavier: disappointment. London doesn't look like the place from the radio. It feels cold, indifferent, and impossibly large. Paddington realizes that good manners don't guarantee understanding. That's when the Brown family notices him. Henry Brown is a cautious man who believes in rules, schedules, and minimizing risk. His wife Mary, however, is drawn to curiosity and empathy. Where Henry sees inconvenience, Mary sees a lost child, even if that child happens to be a bear. Their children, Judy and Jonathan, react differently too. Judy is eager, imaginative, quick to accept Paddington as part of something new. Jonathan is quieter, fascinated by Paddington's oddness rather than threatened by it. Against Henry's instincts, Mary insists they help. They bring Paddington home, temporarily, they insist. Just until something more permanent can be arranged. Paddington enters their house with reverence. Every object fascinates him. Every rule is followed earnestly, if sometimes disastrously. He tries to fit in the only way he knows how, by being polite, helpful, and honest. But fitting in is harder than Paddington expects. His attempts at usefulness often end in chaos. A simple bath floods the bathroom. A helpful gesture turns into a misunderstanding. Paddington doesn't yet understand how fragile human routines are, or how easily kindness can be mistaken for disruption. Henry grows increasingly uncomfortable. He worries about neighbors, about order, about things going wrong. Paddington represents unpredictability, and Henry has spent his life avoiding exactly that. Mary, meanwhile, begins to see something else. She notices how Paddington listens. How he apologizes sincerely. How he never assumes malice, even when treated unkindly. Paddington doesn't just occupy space, he softens it. Still, danger lurks quietly. Paddington is not the only one who notices that he is rare. Millicent Clyde, a taxidermist obsessed with preserving rare creatures, learns of Paddington's existence. Where others see innocence, she sees opportunity. Her interest is not curiosity, it is possession. Paddington remains unaware. He believes most people are good. And that belief, fragile and powerful, begins to ripple outward, changing the Browns, unsettling the neighborhood, and slowly transforming a city that forgot how to stop and notice. But Paddington's journey has only just begun. Paddington tries very hard to be good. Every morning in the Browns' house, he wakes early, straightens his hat, and prepares himself for the day with intention. He studies the rules Henry has written down for him, memorizing them carefully. Paddington believes rules exist to help people live together peacefully, and if he follows them closely enough, he will earn his place. But London is not a city that slows down for gentleness. Paddington steps outside and discovers a neighborhood shaped by routine and suspicion. Neighbors watch from behind curtains. Shopkeepers raise eyebrows. People are polite, but distant. Kindness is measured, conditional. Paddington greets everyone warmly anyway, tipping his hat, offering smiles that are returned more out of confusion than warmth. Still, something subtle begins to change. Mrs. Bird, the Browns' housekeeper, pretends to be unimpressed, but she notices Paddington's effort. She sees how he cleans up after himself, how he apologizes even when accidents aren't his fault. The neighbors begin to soften too, if only slightly. Paddington's sincerity disarms them in ways they don't fully understand. Henry, however, remains unconvinced. He worries constantly about what Paddington represents: unpredictability, attention, risk. Henry has built his life on control, and Paddington disrupts that simply by existing. Every mishap feels like confirmation that opening the door to someone different invites chaos. Mary sees it differently. She sees how Paddington is trying, not to impress, but to belong. She notices how the house feels warmer, more alive, since he arrived. The children laugh more. Conversations linger longer. Paddington brings curiosity back into rooms that had grown comfortable with routine. Danger approaches quietly. Millicent Clyde watches Paddington from a distance, her fascination bordering on obsession. She studies him as an object rather than a person, seeing rarity where others see vulnerability. Paddington senses something is wrong, though he doesn't know why. For the first time, his optimism falters. When Paddington accidentally causes a public mishap, suspicion turns quickly into outrage. People are faster to blame than to understand. Paddington, overwhelmed and frightened, runs, believing painfully that the city might be better off without him. The Browns search desperately. Henry, forced into action, begins to see what he's been avoiding. Paddington isn't dangerous because he's different, he's vulnerable because he's kind. And kindness, Henry realizes too late, requires protection. The family comes together, putting aside rules and caution in favor of loyalty. They confront Millicent Clyde, exposing her intentions and standing between Paddington and someone who would harm him for the sake of possession. When Paddington is finally safe again, the moment is quiet. No applause. No grand speeches. Just relief. Henry kneels beside Paddington and apologizes, not formally, not carefully, but honestly. He admits he was afraid. Afraid of change. Afraid of responsibility. Paddington listens, then does what he always does. He forgives. Aunt Lucy's words echo in Paddington's mind: if we're kind and polite, the world will be right. Paddington now understands that kindness doesn't guarantee ease, but it creates connection. It invites people to choose better versions of themselves. London begins to feel different. Not perfect. Not transformed overnight. But warmer. Paddington finds his place not because he earned it, but because he was accepted. The Browns stop calling him a guest. The city stops seeing him as a problem. And Paddington finally understands what Aunt Lucy hoped he would find: a home. Paddington is a story about belonging, about how openness can soften fear, and how family is sometimes something you build, not something you're born into. It reminds us that kindness is not weakness, that politeness can be radical, and that the smallest presence can make the largest difference. If you enjoyed listening to this story, please like the video, share it with someone who loves gentle, heartfelt films like this, and subscribe for more narrations.